Before we get into today's show, Justin, we've got some very exciting news to share with everyone here today. This week, we've launched our brand new YouTube membership community. For all of you who watch the podcast on YouTube, and that number is growing by the day, Justin, you can get even more involved in the second tier family by signing up to our membership community for just $4.99 a month. With that, you'll get custom emojis, loyalty badges, access to the second tier Discord where you can chat with us and loads of other Championship fans, and as well as that, the video version of Zamora Time, our bonus episode every weekend. All you have to do is head over to our channel page and click the join icon next to the subscribe button, pop your details in, and then that's it. You're in. It really is as simple as that. And if you're an audio listener, don't worry. You've got, of course, the second tier Patreon. Just click the link in the description of this episode to get involved there. Right. Enough of that, because we've got a jam-packed episode here today, haven't we, Peachy? What a crazy weekend it has been. We actually had a 3-word review from Andreas on our Patreon for the entire weekend. He said, absolute effing cinema. And my God, is he right, Justin?
It was absolutely bonkers. I think for a team to score 7 goals against another team in one game is ridiculous. And we've got a couple of bangers and free kicks. We've got late goals again. Sheffield Wednesday come from 2 goals down. This is it. This is the bloody Championship. We're now up and running. We're in 3rd gear, 4th gear. We're going faster and faster. It's stopping.
Yeah, we've got 7 games/results here, which could have very easily been leading the show on another weekend. But we'll start with probably the most eye-catching result of the weekend. Coventry City 7, Queen's Park Rangers 1. 3-word reviews for Coventry. Sky Blue Cal on our Patreon says, no clean sheet. Jimmy says, we wanted 8. Alex says, our housewarming party. Rob says, Justin wrong again. For QPR, Tommy says, yeah, it was class. Ralph says, could have been better. Fly on our Patreon says, effing hate Saturdays. Matt on our Patreon says, Stefan S. show. Yeah, Justin, the Lampard effect.
There it is, ladies and gents. He scores 7 goals, concede 1. Yeah, it's Frank Lampard effect. Yeah, extraordinary result. Very incredibly eye-catching, as you say. I think a team, as I mentioned, to hit 7 goals in the 3rd game of the season against one team is just complete madness, and what a way to advertise a Championship. But it was a very good day to be a Coventry fan. Very, very good day, and what a highlight of attacking potential this is for the Sky Blues.
Yeah, the stats for this game are insane. Coventry had 8 shots on target, so only 1 of them didn't go in. Coventry got their 7 goals from an XG of 1.3. 7 goals from 1.3 XG. That is pretty good going. And apparently in terms of big chances, I don't really know how they define what a big chance is, but apparently in this game, there were only 2 big chances in the entire game. 1 for Coventry and 1 for QPR. So I saw all that before I watched this game, and I thought either QPR's goalkeeper has had an absolute stinker or Coventry were just unbelievable with their finishing. And I don't think Joe Walsh, the QPR keeper, could have really done much with any of the goals apart from maybe 1 or 2. Otherwise, it was genuinely a finishing masterclass from Coventry.
I'm probably sitting on the side of the fence where I thought Joe Walsh could have done a significant amount better with 2 or 3 of the goals. There's a deflected one as well. I think QPR may have been better off having a papier-mâché version of Paddy Kenny in goal at times in this game. That's how disappointed I am with Joe Walsh. It was a poor goalkeeping display. But I think from Coventry's point of view, they were just incredibly clinical. I think for a team to have 8 shots on target and the goalkeeper to just make 1 save, it's not about luck in this scenario. It's just about being clinical. It's about having your chances and taking them. I don't think Coventry needed to work incredibly hard to win this game, because that spell just before half time got the points, and then it was just about having a bit of swagger about them. And that's what they did. They had a bit of swagger, they enjoyed themselves, and rightly so after what was a pretty significant day for the club in the city.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always a big proponent of XG, but it doesn't tell the picture in every game, and this was one of them, because it makes it look like Coventry somehow didn't deserve this ridiculous win, but they absolutely did, because they were astonishingly good. The scoreline may be slightly harsh on QPR, but don't let that take anything away from Coventry, who had their chances and very much took them. Jack Radoni celebrated staying at Coventry with an exceptional performance. Brandon Thomas Asante, someone I'm not always the most convinced about. He was brilliant on the right-hand side. And Victor Torp, who probably wouldn't be starting if Ben Sheaf was fit, has possibly now taken that position for himself with his performances over the last 2 games. A big thing for Coventry is that they were a bit reliant on Rodoni last season. So the goals being shared around is great. And Coventry have now scored 12 goals in 2, which is it's not bad going, to be fair, is it, Justin?
No, it's very, very impressive. I think it helps when you have an abundance of attacking quality. Haji Wright's a player that we know very well. We know what he can do with goal scoring and linking up. And you mentioned sort of being over-reliant on Jack Rodoni last season. Haji Wright was injured for about a third of the season. Ephraim Mason-Clark was in and out of the team with injuries and fitness problems. And Brandon Thomas-Asante didn't really get going properly last season either. But what you've got here is Haji Wright's in form. Ephraim Mason-Clark is looking sharper and sharper with every game. Milan van Eerwyk at right wing-back, probably the best right wing back in the division at this point now. You know, his attacking output is superb, but it just feels like every single avenue and angle, Coventry have got a little bit of ammunition. You talk about Victor Torp as well. Incredibly good at hitting shots from distance, and forcing saves or even scoring. He's a very good player. And again, he probably would have been heavily involved at the end of last season if it wasn't for injury. So there's a lot of players there who just, I guess, struggled at times last season because of just bad fortune, bad luck. But what they've got now is, this is what we're seeing. This is if it's all blending together and everyone's fit and firing, I say scoring 7 goals isn't the potential, but this is what we've got at our feet. This is a very impressive Coventry team.
Yeah. Well, hard to disagree with much you say there, Justin. And it was, of course, the Saturday of dreams, really, for Coventry, because not only did they win 7-1, but they've now bought their stadium, the CBS Arena. They've never actually owned it before. I thought they may have owned it when it was first built, but apparently not. And it's been 20 years after they first started playing there. They've purchased it from the Frasers Group. And Coventry had an agreement to play there until the end of the 27-28 season. But there was uncertainty beyond that. Still a fair few years away, but there was uncertainty beyond that. However, that's now been put to bed. So incredible news for the club, this, isn't it, Justin?
Massive news for the club and the city. You know, to not own your stadium for a football club, it's a difficult thing. You know, we were speaking very recently about Oxford and the uncertainty it brings. It's difficult, and obviously with Coventry, we've had them playing in different cities. We've had them, almost forced out of the CBS Arena. There was talk of a stadium being built in near Warwick Uni as well. It's just been turmoil. It really has been. So for Doug King, the owner, to get this over the line, is incredible. He's invested a lot of money into Coventry. He's essentially unified a football club and the city in the space of 2 years, which is such a upward trajectory. And whether or not they make the Premier League this season or next season or whatever, this is so significant and a huge turning of a new chapter for the football club.
Yeah, and you could tell that this news had really buoyed the Coventry fans into, inspiring the team to play as well as they did against QPR. As you were alluding to, Justin, I'm sure we're all familiar by now with Coventry having to play their games outside of Coventry. They've been forced to play Northampton, Birmingham, and for the last 15 years, they've had this uncertainty hanging over their heads. I used to work in Coventry. I was covering this story on a regular basis, so I know how agonising this saga has been, and I can only imagine how bad it must have been if you actually supported the damn club. So the fans have really been through the ringer over the years, and this has been something that's been lingering in the back of their minds for a while, and now it's finally been put to bed. They finally have a home, and that's it now. It's their forever home, if you will. There's no, it might not be the same in 5 years' time. No, that's it now. And I imagine it was quite an expensive deal to pull off, but Doug King, the owner, clearly knows how important it was for the long-term future of the club. Some owners, not naming any names, currently in the Championship, only care about what's happening while they're there. And even after Doug King's leaves, this will be so beneficial. So that's why I will always say Coventry are one of the best run clubs in the Championship. Don't necessarily agree with the choice of manager, but we'll leave that there. But what Doug King has done for the club since he's come in has been nothing short of amazing. I don't think you can really dispute that. A very bad afternoon for QPR. There's a video of their young attacker, Ryan Coley, apologising to the travelling Rangers fans after this game, which was, probably a good move. And it's not been a great start to the season for QPR, has it, Justin? Just the 1 point so far, which is not ideal if you're someone who spent the entire summer calling them your dark horse.
And neighing for the entire summer as well.
Nay.
There we go. I think what makes this worse is that it was the anniversary this week of QPR getting spanked 7-1 away at West Brom. I think that was on Monday. So for this to fall in the same week is incredible. It's weird how it all works, but it did. But with this, there are a lot of question marks coming from fans towards the club, towards Julien Stéphan as well, which is interesting. I'm being tempered with my judgment, mainly because they have a lot of injuries in the squad. That being said, the starting 11 here was a strong one. So to be as bad as they were, I was going to say catastrophically bad, but weirdly, I don't think it was. I think Coventry had an incredibly, incredibly gifted day in front of goal.
Yeah.
But there was errors that were leading to certain things. Defensively, getting the ball through to midfield, they looked lost in possession at times, and they were severely punished. It didn't help themselves either. There was a second goal, I think, the pre-assist was from a QPR player passing it from right back to a centre back 25 yards away across the pitch. Just really dreadful decision making. They got punished really, really significantly here. So I'm not getting over stressed about QPR right now, but their start has been below par to what was a very exciting summer. Yeah,
as far as dark horses go, maybe we need to start getting one of those tents that you put up at the horse racing.
Oh dear!
Because look, it's not been ideal. I think with the new manager Julien Stéphan, it was always going to go one of two ways, because it's unknown manager coming to a new league, and I was willing to back it to go well because of his remarkable record in France, and so far it's gone the other way. But we are just 3 games in. We shouldn't lose our heads, of course, after just 3 games. I think with QPR and Derby, for that matter, they're 2 teams I've been fancying to do well this season, because they're the 2 teams who have had possibly the best summer transfer windows. But both have also been ravaged by a bizarre number of injuries, considering we've just started the season. And QPR still very much in the process of recruiting. So once everyone has settled is when I think we can judge them better. But it's undeniably not been a great first 3 games, especially when one of those games includes a 7-1 thumping. Let's go to one team who are somehow doing even worse than QPR, though, Justin, because there's only 2 teams now who are pointless in the Championship. And unfortunately, it's not getting any better for Rubén Sellés of Sheffield United. It's after they lost 1-0 at home to Millwall. 3 reviews for Millwall. Al says win and 10 mil. Paul says down with Tanganga. For Sheffield United, Brian says dog shite blades. Hyder says Rubén Sellés out. KM says bring him home, and attached a GIF of Chris Wilder. GIF or GIF?
GIF. Definitely GIF. If you're over 40, it's GIF.
Okay, right, there we go. Oh dear, Justin. 4 losses from 4 for the bloody Blades.
Yeah, that's the headline, isn't it? It's bruising. It's very, very bruising. Weirdly, I think you take the mistakes out of that Bristol City game on the opening day, the 4-1 defeat. That was their best performance. Here, I think we saw a very flat retreating first half. Second half did improve, but I think when you are giving a Millwall side a head start, at any stage of any season, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult, and to do that when your confidence is rock bottom is even harder. But for me, I think there are bigger problems for Sheffield United at the back. There are bigger problems for Sheffield United in recruitment that might all improve in the coming weeks as players come in. But at the minute, the pressure is only building on the club, on Rubén Sellés, and yes, that only brings. Fan animosity, I think, would be the polite way of describing it.
Yeah, very diplomatic way of describing it. In that first game, they were a shambles at the back. In their second, they were a shambles going forwards. And this one, I think they actually played all right, particularly in the second half. They were unlucky in the end to leave with nothing. Yet Stephen Bender making a couple of brilliant saves in the Millwall goal. Harrison Burrows had a strike which hit the inside of the post and somehow stayed out. So maybe this should be seen as a sign of progress. Not sure Sheffield United fans will necessarily agree, considering how loudly they booed at full time in this one, though, Justin.
Well, yeah, I think it's not going to help. It's not going to help things, is it? But ultimately, the fans are disappointed. The fans are very disappointed. I do feel for Rubén Sellés, but at the same time, if fans are as unhappy as they are, for me, it's more reflective of what's going on, at board level with recruitment. It's been slow, it's been laboured, it's been disappointing. And you can't put all of the blame on Rubén Sellés, but at the same time, he's not getting results. And unfortunately, the fans booing is probably a projection of emotion from what was a difficult summer after what was a horrendous way to not get promoted, and then for things to not be as proactive as they should have been in recruitment, in managerial decision-making, etc. A lot of problems went over in the summer, and I think it's just spinning over now.
Yeah, I get everything you say there, because I do feel sympathy for Rubén Sellés, because he was always going to be up against it replacing Chris Wilder, and you're absolutely right. I don't think the recruitment this summer has gone to plan at all.
No.
But with the players they've got, they shouldn't be sat on 0 points right now, should they? Simple as that. Particularly when they were so poor in different ways in the first 2 games, and it means the pressure continues to rise on Sellés. So much so that, I know we're only 3 games in, but when do we start talking about the possibility of him getting sacked? Yes, 3 games in, 4 if you count the League Cup. So it's very early to be having that sort of conversation, but I don't think it's ridiculous considering the circumstances which we've found ourselves in already, Justin.
It's far too early to be having that conversation. I think if Rubén Sellés gets sacked, then there needs to be some serious question marks over the new owners and the team and the recruitment team. Yeah, I think
it's like what they say, isn't it? Where if someone gets sacked after 6 months, it's the manager's fault. But if you sack someone after 1 month, then it's the person who's hired him fault. Do you see what I mean? Yeah,
exactly. But as I say, I think these problems run a little bit deeper. I think if you hark back to the summer, as I was alluding to, this is why I think the board should take the brunt of it, and the decision maker should take the brunt of it, is because ultimately Chris Wilder left quite late, 18th of June. A good 3.5, 4 weeks after the playoff final. Rubén Sellés was appointed on the same day, but squad preparation, you're already behind because of the playoffs, or you're 4 weeks behind on that, and then you add another 3.5 weeks to make a decision on Chris Wilder. Teams around you have a head start, and it feels like board recruitment have been caught very, very short, and ultimately that's why the squad looks a mess, it looks imbalanced. Rubén Sellés is having to deal with the brunt of it. Performances should be better, should be more balanced, but to pull these judgments about him being sacked after 3 games, I think it's an emotional reaction from what has been an emotionally very difficult time for fans of the club because of what happened in the playoff final, because of a legend leaving in the summer. Unfortunately, Rubén Sellés is going to be the fall guy, but as I say, if you're not pointing the finger at those above him, then you need to take a bit of a deeper look at it.
Yeah, well, I think you're spot on, because for me, because Sellés is replacing a club legend, any losses that he suffers comes with a sort of multiplier. Do you know what I mean? So he's already a lot more pressure than he would be if he was coming in after a guy who's just been sacked after losing 5 games in a row. Should he be sacked? I don't think so. I think Rubén Sellés is a very good manager and suits how the club wants to approach things. I believe if he's given time, he should do well there. But whether he gets that time is a very different question, especially with an international break coming up. So I wouldn't be surprised if anything happens in the next couple of weeks. I also wouldn't be surprised if the owners completely bottled it and got Chris Wilder back in, Justin.
Wow. Yeah, that would be... But the thing is, I don't think Chris Wilder could do a lot with this current squad. Of course, players will still come in between now and the end of the transfer window, but whether Chris Wilder was in charge or not, this squad needed completely revamping. The rebuild started last summer. They did a great job of getting a lot of players through the door, but the rebuild had to continue this summer, and it didn't. So even if Chris Wilder's there, I don't think he's going to get much more out of this squad than Rubén Sellés, unfortunately, because of the balance, because of the lack of personnel, because of lack of depth.
It's 2 wins from 2 on the road for Millwall, and they've come at what I would say are 2 tricky hunting grounds in Norwich and Sheffield United. Not bad going at all, that, is it, Justin?
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's quite interesting and incredible, really. I think it's sort of expected that Millwall would be doing a little bit better away from home, because I think this team is probably better suited to playing away right now, because they're able to sit back a touch and take the game on the counter-attack. We saw against Middlesbrough that Middlesbrough score a goal at the Den, they sit back and hit Millwall on the counter. With Millwall here, they get that goal in the first half and they're able to soak up pressure and do the same that team's been doing to Millwall at the Den. I say team in Borough. But I thought first half, Millwall looked so good going forwards. So good. Created a couple of chances before. before they scored, which ended up, Mike Cooper needed to make a couple of fairly routine stops. But the football that got them into those positions was very, very nice. It's a nice little insight into what could be in the next few weeks. The frustrating thing for me is the goal was a little bit ugly, and it doesn't do some of the football justice that they were playing. It was all very sexy at times.
Yeah, well, I think you say it's sexy. I would definitely put this win in the category of typical Millwall win, in the way that they probably had to grind it out in the second half anyway, but they did just that, and it's another big 3 points for them. I think they defended brilliantly, which was particularly encouraging to see, considering they didn't have Japhet Tanganga, who appears to be on his way out. So overall, I'd be very happy with this start if I was a Millwall fan. As I said before, I don't think they actually played that badly last weekend, despite losing 3-0 to Middlesbrough. So plenty to build on for the Wall. I mentioned Japhet Tanganga, Justin, as I say, he appears to be leaving for Sheffield United. Ironically, after the game, he was on the pitch to applaud the Millwall fans, who responded by saying, "Japhet, what's the score?" Which is it's not the goodbye he was expecting, I imagine.
It wasn't. It was incredibly awkward. I can't remember what teammate it was. It may have been Stephen Bender. I can't remember quite specifically who it was, but there was one of his teammates was pushing him forwards to applaud the Millwall supporters. It was really, really funny, really, really awkward, and do love to sit a little bit. It's a little bit of good, playful shithousery, bit awkward, as I say.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he was thinking during that very moment, but he's leaving with Millwall's best wishes, I'm sure. This was one of the shock results of the weekend. Preston North End 1, Ipswich Town 0. Few reviews for Preston. Tony says, great defensive performance. Adrian says, defence beats attack. James says, I love us Myage. Anthony says, Preston are 6th. For Ipswich, Jasp says, pathetic, nowhere excuses. Reese says, slow, poor, predictable. Grant says, so fucking toothless. Suffolk Jedward says, what's going on? Yeah, I think it's fair to say this one was a bit of a snatch and grab, considering Preston had just the 2 shots in the entire game to Ipswich's 15. But it's also hard to argue Ipswich came close with any of those shots, really, Justin.
I was looking at the stats, and 70% possession is an astonishing amount. Had 15 shots and had just 2 on target? Come on. With Jack Clark and Jaden Philligan on the flanks, that's what you create. Very disappointing. We can definitely do better than that. We really, really can. The royal we, of course. I'm not involved in the setup, but if I was, I'd be putting a rocket up their arses, because I think with Preston getting an early goal, 10th minute, it does lend to a defensive performance that's going to be difficult to break down. But what's clear for me is some of these Ipswich players, there's a shortage of confidence. I think Jack Clark's the best example here, is that he looks a shadow of the player he left Sunderland this time last year. But ultimately, Ipswich never got going. Preston deserve a hell of a lot of credit for the game plan, which stifled and disrupted Ipswich. But again, if you're looking to be a promotion winner, your performances have to be way, way better. You have to be creating a hell of a lot more. And you have to be a lot more convincing. I think the 3-word review of it being very, you know what you're getting with this Ipswich team at the moment. It's just disappointment.
Yeah, let's make no mistake about it. Ipswich were very poor here. Preston were clearly more than happy to sit on that lead as soon as they got it, and Ipswich really struggled to ask questions of them. And it's the same critique we had of Sheffield United, really. With the players they've got, that should not be the case. You've got an attacking trio of Philogene, Schmodix, Clark, and they didn't really come close to finding an equaliser. I think they could have played for another 90 minutes and not scored. And the thing is, we're 3 games in now, an Ipswich player hasn't scored from open play yet. Because, of course, they had the penalty in the first game against Birmingham. Against Southampton, it was an own goal. And the excuse we had before was they were 2 very tough games for Ipswich. I think we were always going to learn more about them here. And what I've learned is they still need additions. I don't think they should, considering the talent they've got at their disposal. But something is still clearly missing here, Justin.
You say they still need additions, but should the answer be... we need more? Yeah, I don't think it should. How about getting the best out of what you have? I know we're 3 games in, but ultimately, I think the Ipswich we saw a couple of seasons ago, this is nowhere near the same sort of carefree Ipswich side that we saw the season that they went up. The team is good enough to be managing more than 2 shots on target in any game against any team in the Championship. So for me, the answer cannot always be we need more. squad's deep enough, it's good enough. It's just ultimately it's not clicking, and that's frustrating, especially after knowing you were relegated. In April? Squad planning begins then. You've got a long summer ahead of you, but you've got a lot more time than a lot of teams, and you look like you've only just started pre-season 2 weeks ago. It's disappointing.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you say there. And if anything, I think it says a lot about the managers last season who came down with relegated clubs and managed to turn things around so quickly with those clubs, because it's, as we've seen with the 3 relegated sides this season, it's a lot easier said than done. Whatever the case, Ipswich do look like they are going to be signing players this coming week. They've got Casey McAteer, which we talked about the other day. That deal's now been confirmed, apparently for $11.5 million, which is a lot of money for someone who is fairly unproven, but we'll see. Yeah, you're right, Steve. They still quite clearly want a midfielder. Will that be Hayden Hackney or someone else? We'll see. They've apparently bid for a Uruguayan defender playing in Mexico. They've also said previously that they want another attacker. So similarly with a lot of teams, it's a big week ahead for Ipswich in the final days of the transfer window. Back-to-back wins for P&E though, Justin, against 2 teams who were in the Premier League last season. And we've been wondering if they may have a hangover from last season, but it looks as if they may have the fabled ghost hangover, which I was talking about last week. Oh,
the ghost hangover. I wish. It impacted me a lot more than it does. But I think a lot of credit to Paul Heckingbottom, because I think some of the things he's been saying over the last 2 weeks, more so after yesterday, he spoke about winning games when second best, which is a mentality they didn't have last season. Paul Heckingbottom said that himself. So when you score early in the game, you know you're going to be under the cosh for the rest of it. There's a lot of mental strength you need heading into the rest of your minutes. So yes, let's say full credit to Paul Heckingbottom for instilling that in the players. Not been overly impressed with recruitment, but actually what Paul Heckingbottom has been, he's been working his Yorkshire magic on his players.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of red flags about Preston over the summer, didn't we? And heading into the new season. But so far, none of those red flags have really looked like they've indicated anything whatsoever, because they've defended brilliantly in these last 2 games. Defence wasn't that much of a worry for me because they've got some solid players at the back. It was going forwards where I have the issues. But doesn't seem to be too much of a problem right now with Middleton as Mike getting 3 and 3. I have seen rumours online linking him with a £20 million move away. And may I say, if anyone is willing to pay £20 million for him, may I instead suggest investing in these beans I have, which will grow into a magic money tree. But no, he's had a very bright start, even though there's a lot of evidence to suggest he's a bit of a prat. But yeah, fair play to Paul Heckingbottom. He started the season under pressure after the disastrous end to the last one. He's seemingly made the players forget about that, and they're doing well. Preston have been very hard to beat at Deepdale for a long time anyway. If they keep that up, they'll be in no danger of them going down. So yeah, got to take your hat off to Paul Heckingbottom for this decent start. Let's have a look back at how we did with our predictions in Friday's preview show. And I managed to pull a point back, ladies and gents, after success for my banker Birmingham to beat Oxford. No luck with my outsider of Charlton to beat Leicester, which we'll get onto shortly. However, a pretty disastrous weekend for Justin Peach. His banker lost, which was Southampton to beat Stoke, another one we'll talk about shortly. And his outsider was QPR to beat Coventry. They were close though, but Justin is still 2 points ahead of me in the overall scores, so it could be worse, Justin.
Yeah, I had a Coventry fan message me at halftime of the Coventry game, and I think it was 5-0, and my immediate reply was 45 to go, and I think it may have been the 46th minute. Coventry score another, and the belief slowly went at that point. All in jest, of course, all in jest. Yeah,
I'm not surprised. But we're back round with another round of predictions in next Friday's preview show. We'll have a quick break just now. After that, we'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday getting their first point on the board and the final 2 teams who are 3 from 3 so far in the Championship. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. We're talking about all the action from across this past weekend, and we'll go to Sheffield Wednesday next, who have got their first point on the board. They came from 2-0 down to draw 2-2 away at Wrexham. 3 word reviews for Wednesday. Matt says, Henrik's Fighting Owls. Bauer Hockey says, what a fight back. Laura says, fighting spirit shown for Wrexham. Randy on our Patreon says, absolute bottle jobs. Yeah, what a result for Wednesday, Justin.
Yeah, I think being 2-0 down for them to get back into the game is astonishing. It's huge. I think the fans deserve it. Players do too, because the welcome the Sheffield Wednesday supporters got at full time from that away end was just incredible. The noise was incredible. The being serenaded was incredible. There's just so many superlatives to come out of it. So the character of these individuals in amongst the circumstances they're in, we're closing down on a payday very, very quickly. So there's going to be a lot of uncertainty brewing in. Yeah, it's just an astonishing performance, an astonishing turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely. And they probably should have won it right at the end. Charlie McNeil was 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper in the 96th minute and smashed it straight at him. But either way, coming from 2 goals down to get something is a terrific result for Wednesday, particularly when a lot of these players, with the problems which we've mentioned several times over the past few months now. But yeah, the away support was amazing. Again, by all accounts, that seemed to really stir the players into mounting this fight back. And so a great afternoon for the club. And I'm not sure how many points they're going to get for the foreseeable future. So when they come, they have to be celebrated. I've also seen a lot of praise for Barry Bannon in this as well, by the way. Whether you're a Wednesday fan or not, it's got to be recognised just what an absolute legend he is. What were you going to say, Justin?
Yeah, I think actually just the amount of spending that Wrexham are doing and the lack of money Wednesday have, the disparity here, I think it's easy enough to just throw a hell of a lot more praise at Wednesday because, yeah, the financial difference is... it's not something you want to keep drilling into to people, but... Yeah, Wrexham being linked with £7.5 million moves and Sheffield Wednesday players don't even know if they're going to get paid in 6 or 7 days' time. Yes, incredible.
Yeah, just 2 clubs going in very different directions based off the past few months, aren't they? But yeah, dearie me, Wrexham, they really capitulated in that second half, didn't they? This is their first point, but it really should be 3 points that they're celebrating here. And it's overall been a pretty rough welcome to the Championship, hasn't it, for old Wrexham?
It's been interesting watching them. Looking at the numbers behind their start to the season, they've created the 3rd highest XG in the Championship so far. They've missed 11 big chances, which I know you were saying, what is a big chance? But ultimately, it's a good goal scoring chance, isn't it? And that's the second highest behind it. Second highest behind Stoke. Yeah, this is despite being one of the biggest net spenders in Europe. That stat came up over the weekend, but also one of the biggest spenders in the Championship. Recruitment is everything at this level. And it is showing that you need the right character over just throwing money at other clubs for their squad players. So I'm not gonna keep sort of having a go at their recruitment. Ultimately, what is happening here is Wrexham are being punished for not taking opportunities, for lapses in concentration. They're very much a League One club coming into the Championship, and no matter how much money you're spending, if you don't shift that mentality quickly, it's going to be a very difficult season for you. Because what they're doing now is very similar trends to League One clubs coming up from the Championship, is they are not taking their chances when they come, and ultimately being punished for the ones that they are giving away. And no disrespect to Sheffield Wednesday with the squad that they have, and you're being pegged back as easily as they were and nearly losing the game. Disappointing. Yeah,
in fairness, I was fairly surprised when I realised this was Wrexham's first point, because I think they have played all right so far. Yeah. Having said that, the second half against Wednesday was pretty criminal, and they've now blown 2 leads in 3 games. And I did say I thought Wrexham would have a slow start. That's partly down to me having my doubts over whether the manager is good enough for this level, which so far seeing a lot more evidence to suggest he isn't, I guess, but also because they're still assembling the squad which came up as far as I was concerned was not good enough for the Championship. So they spent extensively to try and assemble one that is good enough for the Championship, and it's going to take time for those players to gel, and it looks like they're still very much in the process of doing that, because I would expect them to be one of the busiest clubs in this final week of the window, just in considering how many stories I keep seeing popping up on my timeline about Wrexham being linked with so-and-so.
It's always £7 million as well. Will Smallbone was the latest link this weekend. It's £7 million again. Stop signing fucking squad players of other teams. You're not going to stay in the Championship if you're buying other teams' very average players. Sorry, it's just not going to work. I don't know why you did it, but you made me have a go at their recruitment. You did.
Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to bring that out of you, but this is just what happens, isn't it, when we get so passionate talking about these different clubs. But yeah, I'm expecting Wrexham to spend a lot of money in this coming week, whether it's 7 million or however much. We have been unsure whether they're spending every pound the best that it could be spent, haven't we? That's something we've said a fair few times over the past couple of weeks.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
Go on.
Do you remember getting your first decent paycheck as an 18-year-old?
Oh, yes.
And you spend it stupidly.
Straight to Scream in Derby, a bar in town.
Honestly, it screams of a teenager earning their first couple £100 and spending it terribly. And ultimately, at the end of the year, they're going to look back and go, "Oh shit, I've really messed up here." It's
like me with my first student loan. Yeah,
exactly. It's a better example.
Very long.
A better example.
But yeah. You mentioned all that, Justin. We were saying in the week we thought the deal to sign Callum Doyle was a good one for £7.5 million. That looked like it was Wrexham actually spending a lot of money very sensibly. But according to the Telegraph, Man City have the option to buy him back for the same price. So it sounds like this is actually more of a very expensive loan deal than a transfer, because even if City don't want him back in the future, they could always just buy him back and as soon as there's interest from elsewhere and then just pocket the profit. So, I don't know. I don't really understand what the thinking is behind this. It just seemed like, as we say, a lot of this money isn't being spent as well as it could do. And I don't know who they're going to sign in the final week of the window or how much they're going to spend, but I'm not expecting it to be brilliant value for money because it's not been something which has been very regular so far in Wrexham's transfer window. A couple of bits from this game. There was a moment where one of the Wednesday fans said to Kiefer Moore, "That was a great pass at Wembley, Kiefer."
It's just then he scores twice for them Wednesday get the late equaliser. It was fucking poetry. It was great.
Yeah, very, very good. And there was a bit of a palaver before this game as well. Wrexham were going to disallow the Wednesday fans from bringing a banner into the grounds that said SWFC for sale, enough is enough, apparently because of political connotations, which is interesting. But that decision was reversed, and Rob McElhenney, the co-owner, then also announced that any of Wrexham's away shirts from last season, which were sold before Monday, the profits from them will be donated to the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust. So a nice little touch there from the forgotten one of the Wrexham co-owners. It's 3 wins from 3 for Stoke City, their latest coming in a 2-1 win away at Southampton, despite being down to 10 men for the final half hour. 3-word reviews for Stoke. Nick on our Patreon says, "Dilks spicy sauce." Pigeon Man says, "We're going invincible." Oatcake says, "Shutting up, Dilks." Ben says Dilks was wrong. It's at least a lot nicer than it has been for the past couple of weeks. For Southampton, Matt says, "Can't miss sitters." The Walking Saint says, "Same old shit." Andy says, 10 men shite. Matt says, "Wake up call." Yeah, Stoke just keep pottering away, Justin.
There we go. Pottering away. It's, I didn't want to open up here and be like, "How's your sauce?" But I think all the Stoke fans have pretty much nailed that here. But for Stoke, I've been very impressed. It was an impressive game plan. Stifled, frustrated Southampton. You need to do that if you're going away to a team with the wealth of talent that Southampton have. Mark Robin said himself that he thinks the team can get better as well, and that's he's saying that after a decent mix of performances, dominating Derby, controlled the game against Sheffield Wednesday, and then come to Southampton, got to defend and hit them on the counter. When you're playing different ways, getting results against different types of opposition, they've passed all the tests so far.
Yeah, well, anything I say about Stoke that is not overtly positive is going to be deemed to be sour grapes, isn't it? But in fairness, Absolutely. They got the result here with a little help from the woodwork, Victor Johansson, and Southampton not being able to finish their dinner. Like, bloody hell, Southampton, help me out at least, please. How many chances do you want to miss? For God's sake. But what I'll say is Stoke took their goals well. They didn't venture out their own half much in the second half, mainly because they were down to 10 men, but made it count when they did. Sorba Thomas looks like he's playing more like the Wales Sorba Thomas rather than the club form Sorba Thomas. Young, Bosun, Lawal at the back was brilliance. They went to Southampton with a game plan, one way or another. It worked out. So fair play to them, Justin.
Like I said, I would be full of praise for Stoke because the mix of performances, as I mentioned, it's there's a lot of individuals that are performing very, very well. Victor Johansson's amongst the best goalkeepers in the league, if not the best at the moment. Sorba Thomas is a player that needs highlighting because he, at the minute, is leading the goal contribution charts in the division, and that's the player that I recognised is he's got the quality to come in and perform at this level. And I know we're only 3 games in, but ultimately, yes, things are going to get a bit sticky at times for Stoke this season. Sorba Thomas is going to be finding himself out of form, but he's delivering at the moment, and so are other individuals. That's a really important thing for Stoke. And like I said, I think Mark Robins, what he said, I think he said back in January that the club mentality, the atmosphere was poor, but it's not at the moment. It's not at the moment. He's really lifted the club, and I think 3 wins in 3. I know we're only 3 games into the season, and there's 43 games left. But for a club like Stoke, where your head can dip very, very quickly, and things get negative very, very quickly, and the boos at the Bet365 Stadium are amongst the loudest if things aren't going well. I think for that, for things like that to transform very quickly is necessary. So actually, this start might not impress you, but it's bigger than just getting 3 points. In a matter of 3 games.
Who said it wasn't impressing me?
Come on, just say it.
I mean, I'm not going to say too much because otherwise my DMs are going to be carnage. If I thought they were amazing, I'd have said they've been amazing, but we'll leave that there. Why are you laughing so much?
Just can't say it. Just don't matter. That's just.
Well, as I say, if I thought they were amazing, I'd have said it, but I don't think they have been, despite the results, if I'm being honest. I did have one Stoke fan DM me to say, I hope you know it's all banter from Stoke fans. It's nothing malicious, which was a nice message to get. But just below that message was another Stoke fan calling me a ginger so,
It's just banter.
So, swings and roundabouts, these kind of things. A win, a draw, and a loss for Southampton. Been very mixed, the results so far, haven't they? Are they another one you expect to be a busy little congregation of saints before the transfer window closes, Justin?
They need to be more than Ipswich, for example. I think major improvements needed. I think midfield lacking creativity. Obviously, they're after creativity. Could get Jack Redoni, been linked with Finn Azaz, so there's a clear thing there. I think the team also lacks a fair bit of pace. Despite having some good centre-backs as well, I've not been impressed in the first 3 games. As time and time again, they switch off. There have been several occasions now this season already where they played the ball inwards into the midfield. Opposition is essentially pressed them and scored. There's the same issues here against Stoke. The goals that Southampton have conceded over the past 3 games have been a bit of copy and pasting. So, there's things that need to be worked out, but I think these are bad habits that the players have, that any manager coming in is going to have a problem ironing out. So, there are improvements that need to happen in the squad, but also I think the players are not quite on form.
Well, it looks like Tyler Dibling's going to Everton for 42 million. Thank God that saga's coming to an end. So that gives them a lot to play with in the final few days of the window, depending on how much they think they need. I think it also means there's a better chance of Matías Fernandes staying, even though I can't say I've been massively impressed with him so far this season. But Finn Azaz might be coming from Middlesbrough, as you say. They've already signed Mads Roerslev from Brentford, announced with a very enjoyable announcement video. So, I'll be intrigued to see who they get in. You were saying they need additions more than Ipswich, Justin, but you look at that squad on paper, it's looking very good, but so far it's just not clicked under Will still, and still seem a way off from doing so. So we'll see what business they do, but as we say, they should have a fair bit of cash to be splashing around if they do want to go out there. The only other team with a 100% record so far in the Championship is Middlesbrough. They won 2-1 away at Norwich. 3-word reviews for Borough. Sedgefield says Hayden and Aiden. Steptoe says Morris and Hackney. Jam says Budgie battering Borough. JH says Edwards is him. Yeah, the Rob Edwards redemption arc is gathering pace, Justin.
It is. It's kind of weird because I've not been blown away by Middlesbrough. I think the level of opposition they've played against has been good as well. So getting results before really getting going is a huge positive for them. And obviously Rob Edwards, I think, as much as players need confidence, I think managers need confidence as well. And Rob Edwards took a a bit of a hammering for 18 months because his Luton team became very used to losing. And the things that you try, the things that you try and tweak and change, it doesn't work. And I imagine as a manager, you start to question yourself. So, yeah, for him to start with a essentially 100% record in the league is massive, and a confidence boost for this Borough team who, fell very flat last season, and then confidence booster for Rob Edwards who fell very flat for 18 months. Yeah, massive. Yeah,
Norwich's defending for the 2 goals was
comically bad. What the fuck happened with the second goal?
Yeah, the second one is
control disconnected, isn't it?
It's just bizarre. Everyone in the back 3 decided to just leave Tommy Conway completely unmarked 2 yards away from the goal. It was as you say, the controller turned off while playing on the PlayStation or something. But yeah, Borough were really good, very organised, considering there were concerns about how this team would take to changing formation with the back 3. It seems to be going very well so far. They've been brilliant at the back. They haven't been astonishing by any means in these first 3 games, but you've got to be delighted with how it's gone so far. As a Borough fan, it is only 3 games and they seem to be starting to believe in what they could do under Rob Edwards this season, who is a very talented manager. It's just a question of what state he was in after the debacle of last season. And we haven't seen much evidence of it playing a part so far up at Middlesbrough. I guess one concern is that by the end of a week on Monday, they could look a very different team with Hayden Hackney and Finn Azaz both being linked with moves away. Justin, is that a concern for you?
It would be, because they're big money moves. And I think I said it the other day that Middlesbrough have become a selling club, which is disappointing. Ultimately, I think if you're not a parachute payment team, this is a good strategy to have, but it's very late.
Isn't every team in the Championship a selling club?
Yeah, it is. I think that's the point I was making. Every team in the Championship should probably be a selling club, but to lose 2 of your best players at this stage of the transfer window, that's and to replace them as well, that's a very difficult thing to do. So you're right, they could look a very different team. I think if they keep hold of Finn Azaz and Hayden Hackney after the transfer window, that's as good a summer I think Middlesbrough could possibly have.
I think if they keep hold of Hackney is absolutely paramount to whatever success they want to have this season, I think, because it's going to be incredibly hard to replace him, even though they have got Sverre Nipan, who's obviously coming to the team on loan from City. They're getting in Matt Targett on loan in one of the most shrug-worthy transfers of all time. They appear to be close to getting Senegalese striker Kaylee Sane from Lausanne in Switzerland. They've also reportedly spent around £7 million on Adilson Malander from Charlotte in the MLS, a centre-back. But he's been sent back on loan there until January, which seems like an odd move. If I was a Championship club spending $7 million, I'd quite like that player to be joining as soon as possible. I don't know about anyone else. So yeah, a lot of additions as well as players going out. The main thing is though, Rob Edwards is definitely getting back when I was a bit concerned previously that it looked like that wasn't going to be the case. Definitely getting players back is what I meant to say. When we were making our pre-season predictions, Justin, they hadn't really signed anyone, had they?
Yeah, exactly, and that's where a lot of uncertainty started to bleed into the conversations we were having around Middlesbrough. And there's been a lot of uncertainty outside of the Middlesbrough camp, if you like. A lot of obviously content creators and pundits alike have been not as high on Borough, but ultimately what shuts out very quickly is winning games of football, and 3 wins from 3 is how you do it.
Yeah, stunning strike by Abdul Fataru saw Leicester win 1-0 away at Charlton. 3 reviews for Charlton. CAFC says robbed. CAFC Forever says shouldn't have lost. We'll get onto that shortly. For Leicester, Alex says scrappy away days. Dave says gritty, determined Fataru. Bempo says Fataru's left foot. What a goal that was, Justin, from a phenomenal player.
Yeah, Fataru's first goal in 15 months as well. So to score something like that is ridiculous. But I would argue
he was injured for pretty much 12 months in that one team.
He's not been shit. He's been injured. But actually, the most astonishing part, I think, of this goal is that we know Fataru can do that, but the build-up play from Leicester was extremely good to watch. It was one of those where you build up and it's high-risk passes, one-touch passes starting from deep, and you make it feel like, ooh. And he gets to Fataru, and then I sort of knew he was going to cut inside and at least get a shot on target, but it was pinpoint. Everything about that goal was phenomenal. I know we're 3 games into the season, but that is a very, very high contender for goal of the season for me.
Yeah, if you look at where he's hit it from, it's a remarkable finish to score from there. The only way you're scoring from there is if you're doing exactly what he did, and that's putting it essentially in the top bin. It's an incredible moment of pure brilliance from him. So, I mean, throughout the game, if anyone was going to do something for Leicester, it was him, and that was the perfect example of just how talented he is. And I think it sums up the game pretty well, really, that one goal, because just seconds before it went in, Stolarczyk in the Leicester goal produced a stunning save to keep Charlton out. Because I was watching this game live, Justin. Leicester are shocking again. Charlton, much the better side throughout. And it says a lot that the aforementioned Stolarczyk was named man of the match by the Sky commentators afterwards. That was, I think that pretty much gave you a good indicator of everything you need to know about this game.
I mean, I don't know if it's harsh or not, because I know we said in our preview that the worst team to come up against away from home when your team's under pressure that Leicester have been under is a Nathan Jones team who don't give chances away and aren't going to concede many as well. And I think we saw that happen. And I think there are positives here from a Leicester perspective in that, you know, not going to be a swashbuckling side. It was an awkward fixture, and they managed it relatively well at times. Of course, there's a lot of room for improvement. But for me, what I saw was, you know, a real unity and drive to keep a clean sheet. They gave a lot on the pitch in terms of effort, and they got the reward as well with the moment of quality. So, you know, as far as an awkward fixture, away from home, midday kickoff on a Saturday, I think a 1-0 win going against the grain, I think it's a performance that you come away from and, you know, builds a lot of confidence.
I could not disagree more with everything you say there, because I think you are being very, very generous to Leicester. As I say, I was watching this game live, and you wouldn't have been able to tell which team finished 18th in the Premier League last season and which one finished 4th in League One. I could not believe how bad Leicester were. Stolarczyk absolutely was their man of the match. It seemed like the plan was to just pass it to Fataru every time and hope he does something. I think the years of bad decision making at the club are summed up perfectly by the starting lineup for this game. How are Leicester in a position where they had two 16-year-olds starting? Considering the amount of money that's been spent over the years on this squad, that really should not be the case. I'm sure they'll go on to have an amazing careers or what have you, but it seems mad that they're the best options Leicester have currently got. And they've been second best in every game so far, bar the second half against Sheffield Wednesday. And, you know, no disrespect Sheffield Wednesday, but threadbare team and what have you. So I'm just sat here now thinking, how have they got 6 points from these first 3 games? It's astounding, really. And worth pointing out, they haven't faced anyone yet who is widely expected to finish in the top half. And so I continue to be very unimpressed by Leicester. And I think this next week is going to be massive for them as well. I know it's been the theme of the show today, but it's massive for them as well as we wait to see who's staying and who's going in the transfer window from a Leicester City perspective too.
Well, I think the worst thing about this is we've seen more players linked away with moves from Leicester than we've seen players linked with Leicester. That's quite scary. I know Leicester, I mean, for example, they were heavily linked with Richard Kone throughout the summer, and ultimately he's gone to QPR. So again, what is Leicester's leeway in the transfer market? We've not even seen free agents come in other than Asmir Begovic. It's a really, really concerning time. You are right to be critical of the performance, because ultimately it's not been a vast improvement on what they've been doing. But as I say, I think getting a win like that is going to boost confidence. But I think, you know, I can agree with a lot of what you said. Yeah, relying on 2 teenagers is pretty reckless, I think, especially for a 46-game season.
Not even 2 teenagers, 2 16-year-olds, you know. They've just got their GCSE results this past week. So.
Have they? Because Jerry Monger turned 16 in the summer. He's got 1 year left until he does his GCSE. So one of them's not done his GCSEs. Crazy.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So yeah, it's remarkable, really. But yeah, I keep saying it. It's a big week for a lot of teams, and Leicester are definitely amongst them. Justin, let's do the polls. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter because we want to get their thoughts on everything going on from across the Championship. So firstly, out of the 2 teams with 100% records, who will finish higher this season, Middlesbrough or Stoke?
I will go with Borough, because they've just got a bit of a deeper squad, and Stoke... probably, I think Stoke are about 6 players short of a really competitive squad in Championship, where I think Borough are probably only 1 or 2. Caveat, might lose 1 or 2 as well.
Wasn't expecting that, because you went for Borough as your big underachievers of the season, didn't you, before the season started? And you were flirting with the idea of Stoke being your dark horse, so I was wondering if I could tempt you with that one. But the listeners have gone 72% Middlesbrough, 28% Stoke. What should Sheffield United do with Rubén Sellés? Time for a change or stick with him?
Back him. It doesn't matter whether Rubén Sellés is in charge or not. The squad needs improving. So improve the squad. See what Rubén Sellés can do with it. If he's not very good after 10 games, then make a decision.
62% said stick with him. 38% said time for a change. I think even if they're still struggling after 10 games, you stick with him because this is clearly just a big reset now. And well, it's not obviously gone very well, and you may get a fair few boos from the Sheffield United fans. I think in the long term, he is a good manager, but I don't know if he is going to get that time or not. And finally, what's the better biscuit, chocolate bourbon or custard cream?
Chocolate bourbon, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm chocolate bourbon man as well. I think. Are chocolate bourbons bigger than custard creams? Oh,
they're thinner, aren't they? So I imagine surface area runs pretty close if we were to get to really down into it.
But they're longer, aren't they? They're longer than custard creams.
They are longer, but they're not wider. That's it.
How do you eat your custard cream / chocolate bourbon?
I don't dip it in coffee anymore because the coffee I buy is too expensive. So I've not had a chocolate bourbon for about 2.5 years.
But if you just had one raw, how would you eat that?
If I raw dog my chocolate bourbon, I think I would nibble one side of the biscuit off and then go for the filling.
Oh, you dirty little bugger. 54% of people said custard cream, 46% said chocolate bourbon, so a very, very close one there indeed. But there we go, ladies and gents. Those have been the polls here on the Second Tier Podcast, and this has been The Weekend Show. If you're a Patreon subscriber, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of The Weekend Show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about the overpassionate Hull PA announcer, crossbar challenges, and pathetic Peach. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get Zamora Time in every single weekend show. And for YouTube members, your Zamora Time is available exclusively to you as the next video uploaded to the channel. You can also click the card that will appear at the end of this video. So if you're not signed up yet, audio listeners can head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. For YouTube viewers, just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button on our channel page. But that's just about time for us here on the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday for a news roundup of everything going on from across the Championship, with just days to go in the summer transfer window. So we'll be there to talk about all the latest deals and anything else going on from across the Championship. But otherwise, Second Tier Podcast, I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.